Oh boy, this is gonna be an exciting day.
Why's that?
Well, I just saw the trailer for Rogue One. You know the new Star Wars movie? Looks so good. Have you seen it yet?
No.
You should totally see it after dinner.
So, who's directing this new movie?
Gareth Edwards.
Oh, for goodness sake.
What?
The guy who couldn't do Godzilla right has been entrusted with the new Star Wars movie.
Look, his take on Godzilla may not have been exactly what the fans wanted, but at least it wasn't terrible.
Boys, please! We're not children here, we're adults. Now, you can fight about your feelings about this new director all you want, but I have it on very good authority that he's not going to let his own fandom get in the way of his directing. Pass the blue milk, please.
It's not going to be the same.
Well, I know it won't. I mean, it can't. There's no possible way that it could.
What are you saying?
Well, I'm saying the wonder of Star Wars is different now than it was before.
And how would you know? You weren't there to experience it on the big screen when no one else had any faith in it. You know, it revolutionized the art of storytelling, of world building, the very concept of fantastical realization. And there is no way that any new movie could ever hope to do that.
But why should we be expecting it to do so?
Because that's all it can do.
Hey, what did I just say?
You're wrong, you know.
And how am I wrong?
Because Star Wars is not just some cinematic punch card that the studios can put in a slot and expect it to do the same job over and over again. That's the problem with Hollywood now. They've gotten so used to rinsing and repeating themselves that they've forgotten that they can just take something familiar and still do something fresh and original with it. Star Wars does not need to bring us back to our childhoods. It just needs to remind us what it feels like to be a kid again. I'll be back.
Where are you going?
Get some more blue milk. Just been craving it today.
You worry too much, you know. It's not going to be like the prequels.
That's what I'm afraid of.
The Force will be with you. Always.
Let me ask you a question. How do you get an audience to invest in a story when they already know the outcome? Given the subjective nature of art, there really isn't any one answer to that question, since everybody's going to have their own answer and their own reasons for their answers. So the best answer that I can personally give is actually another question. Is it a story worth telling? In the world of big-budget Hollywood movies, more often than not, sequels and prequels are purely made for cash grabs. They're not about expanding the world they've created, they're not about going further into any character's story that they have, and they are most definitely not about creating something very interesting. They are just about the cash. However, every once in a while there is a prequel or a sequel or even a spin-off that is actually genuinely good because it is a story that is really worth telling. And Rogue One most definitely fits in that category. Make no mistake, it is not in any way the greatest new Star Wars movie ever. We still have a few years to wait for that, potentially. But at the moment, it is most definitely a very good step forward for the Star Wars franchise. Like any other good Star Wars movies, it has a couple of flaws, which I will get to in a moment, but for the most part, I enjoyed this movie an awful lot. The story follows a young lady named Jyn Erso, played by Felicity Jones, as a daughter of a guy who was apparently responsible for designing the Death Star. Oh yeah, almost forgot. This story takes place just before A New Hope, making this a prequel. And I know that sounds scary to you, but I promise it is not like those at all. Anyway, Jyn gets picked up by the rebellion and is asked to find her father. It turns out that her father had secretly, deliberately planted a flaw in the Death Star, and is now trying to get in contact with the rebellion so they can exploit it and destroy it. So the story becomes a race to find the information that they need, all the while meeting new characters who embody all the wonderful aspects of Star Wars, and getting started on doing something that we have long been waiting for Star Wars to do. Be its own thing. Now, what I mean by that is that for as long as there have been Star Wars movies, they've always existed within this certain timeline and have always circulated around certain storyline and certain events. And because of that, there really hasn't been a Star Wars movie that feels like it could be a standalone movie if it wasn't even connected to Star Wars. Rogue One finally accomplishes that, or at the very least, it gets the ball rolling on it. It functions very well as a prequel, and it definitely functions very well as its own movie. Director Gareth Edwards, who has understandably not had much of a strong track record as of late, has finally proven to the world that he is indeed a good director, provided he has a good script. His previous 2 movies were very well directed, but the scripts definitely left a good amount to be desired. But the script for Rogue One is perfect for Gareth Edwards, and he makes it beautiful. What I like best about Gareth Edwards as a director is his camera language. The way he moves and positions the camera to create moments of intrigue and get you really sucked into the story. But of course, any Star Wars movie is really only as good as the supporting characters. Casan Andor, as played by Diego Luna, is really good. K2SO, as played by Alan Tudyk, is totally hilarious. Chirrut Imwe, as played by Donnie Yen, is, for my money, the MVP of the movie, because he is totally badass. And furthermore, he totally embodies the martial arts and Buddhist roots that the mythology of the Force was based upon. And of course, the special effects in the action scenes are awesome! The best fight scene, of course, being the climactic ending fight scene, which I'm not going to spoil anything about, but it is totally deservedly climactic. Now, of course, as you would expect, there were a few things that they did in this movie which I personally think kinda held the movie back and could have been done a little better. Namely, the use of CGI to recreate certain characters who obviously couldn't come back for the movie. I'm not going to spoil who they are or how often they appear in the movie, but I will say that, if nothing else, this is definitely proof that we have not quite yet surpassed the Uncanny Valley. We're getting close, but we're not quite there yet. Also, as much as I enjoyed the movie and would definitely watch it again, in fact I really plan on it, it didn't really have as much of an impact for me personally as I would have liked it to. Like, I think it needed a few more moments of character development to be totally perfect. Don't get me wrong, the character development that is there is pretty serviceable, but I would have preferred if they had a little more, speaking personally. However, despite all that, I still thoroughly enjoyed Rogue One, and I highly recommend you see it in theaters, because it is truly the first step towards Star Wars being its own thing. And the true test of the future of Star Wars movies will be when they finally create a movie that A, does not rely upon any nostalgia value for any of the previous movies or characters, and B, is not about any of said characters or any previous movies. The true test of Star Wars will be when they come out with a Star Wars movie that is its own thing, period. Its own kind of movie, an own story, an own subgenre, but set in the Star Wars universe. That will be a truly wonderful Star Wars movie, if and when that eventually comes out. And given the thought process that went behind Rogue One, I'm pretty sure we can eventually see one. And furthermore, I am happy to say that I am totally confident in the future of Star Wars movies. I am very much looking forward to seeing what comes next. Ladies and gentlemen, I am TheNorm, telling you what Hollywood doesn't want you to hear. May the Force be with you.
Haven't you just been amazed and excited at the prospect of someone ringing the doorbell?
Don't ever change, Dana.